are the ones who care about people, and they grab the moral high ground, and those of us who believe in the markets didn't do a very good job, because if we truly are humanitarians, if we truly want to help people, we don't do it through authoritarianism of government. You have to do it through voluntarism and productivity, enthusiasm and self-reliance and sound money, a strictly limited government that protects liberty. That's what really counts. And this is what I think people are starting to realize, because this system is now known to be failing. And that is the reason people coming together and more aware of how serious this problem is. Let me tell you, a group like this, you are way ahead of my colleagues in Washington, D.C. Some people get frustrated because they say, well, yes, we're a number, our numbers are growing, I'm doing well in the campaign, but we don't have 51% of the country. I mean, they do a poll, what is it, 51% of the country now endorse what we say and do and want to believe in? No, but what is taught about ideas, how they have consequences, the 51% are usually just followers. They come along. 51% are usually the ones that will call you because they know you're interested in politics. But most people go to the polls the day or two before and they wonder what's going on at the last minute. So it is you, the people who care and understand, that are in that minority. It is an irate, tireless minority that Samuel Adams used to talk about. He would say that is the group that has to drive it. And then people in special places, people who are in that group, can lead others. And this is where our numbers are growing by leaps and bounds. And the failure of the system, plus this enthusiasm for something that made America great, and they can see this. And it's not like we have to invent anything new. We can improve upon it. We can. I always resent it when people will write articles. I understand it because I think they do it from not an understanding of what economics and freedom is all about. But they'll say, oh, Ron Paul wants to go back to the 19th century and go back and you know, something old and ancient. But let me tell you what's old and ancient. That's tyranny. That's been around way too long. Most of the world has been run by tyrants. Most of the world today is being run by tyrants. And this is quite a bit different. So the experiment that we've had worked very well, but then we got careless. I believe we got careless because we were tempted by the material abundance. So we have freedom, and we have the incentive, we have a good system, it produces tremendous wealth, and then we concentrate on the material abundance, and we don't think about where the material abundance comes from, and think that, you know, that you can spend forever. Sometimes people who inherit a lot of money, or some people who are successful and get millions and millions of dollars, but they don't understand where it came from. They can get careless and they lose it all. I think we as a nation tended to do that we concentrate on that. What did that invite? It invited business people more to invest more money in lobbyists than in R&D and developing new products and being competitive around the world, because they went to Washington and they took over. So in understanding that, we can challenge all this, but we have to convince people that it is in their best interest. They may not think about this deeply, but they know superficially that we have to, it has to be in their best interest. And right now the people are saying that the programs that we have in Washington, the spending is not in their best interest. It's dangerous. And they have now come to the conclusion, although it's been a long struggle to convince the majority of the American people, it is not in our best interest to be involved in endless wars that have been undeclared or unwinnable, and they ought to end. The opportunity right now that we have, it's expressed in this campaign. We don't know how much time it'll be before we go over the cliff and really cause a great deal of political problems for ourselves. It could be in 6 months, it could be in 6 years. I think it's moving along rather rapidly, but we see it happening around the world already. I mean, take a country like Greece. They know that they went way too far and they have to cut back. When they cut back, people have been taught for so long to be totally dependent. They get very angry. There's demonstrations in the streets and they will become violent. So this is the reason that we have to head it off before we get to that point. And also the fact that that is a danger makes me very much concerned about the undermining of our civil liberties and our due process of law in this country. This is very dangerous. People are fearful either from an enemy that people describe, even if it's pretend. Just think of all the fear-mongering that occurred and why we had to go to war against Iraq because they were about to attack us with a nuclear weapon and Al-Qaeda was there. None of that was true. It was at 9/11 was used as an excuse to do something they wanted to have done for many, many years. Even here at home, there had been people proposing certain types of legislation that would invade our privacy, undermine the Fourth Amendment, and they couldn't get it passed. But guess what? 9/11 came and passed quickly. 2 weeks later, called the Patriot Act. The one thing that the Patriot Act is not, it is not patriotic. Matter of fact, the only thing that we should do about the Patriot Act is repeal it. That's what when that bill was on the floor, we had, even though the bill had been floating around, the final version arrived at the floor in the aftermath of 9/11, and our debate, it was just, sort of automatic. And the congressman that was sitting next to me, he was voting for it. And I said, "Why are you voting for this? You don't even know what's in it." He says, "I know." I said, "There could be some bad stuff in there, don't you know?" He said, "Yeah, I know that." And I said, "Well, why don't you vote against it?" He says, "How can I vote against the Patriot Act and go back home and explain it to my constituents?" I said, "Well, that's what your job is. To go home and explain it to them." But the one thing that, if you look at the name of a bill that comes out of Congress, you can almost always assume it's opposite of what the title tells you it's going to do. A little bit of deceptions there. So can you imagine if they'd have only called it repeal the Fourth Amendment Act? How many people would have voted for it? So when we make the bill to repeal the Patriot Act, we should call it Restore the Fourth Amendment Act. But this has deeply undermined our privacy. There's no doubt about it, because that was a major issue for the founders and then after the Revolution to put that in, because it was the British involvement of going into the houses and looking at the papers and looking for whether or not they bought their stamps and paid their taxes. But they would come in and they'd stay in their houses, no search warrants, and just total abuse. But this is what's happening to us in America today, whether it's a combination of the drug war or the combination of the Patriot Act or the atmosphere. The houses are being broken into rather routinely, and at all levels of government. We have these SWAT teams going in, and unfortunately, many times they're going in and they're going to try to find out if somebody's using an illegal drug. And they go in there and people die. They don't even show the search warrant because they don't get them, and they get to write them. The person breaking into the houses get to write their own search warrants. This was the kind of thing that we had a revolution about, and it's also, this particular act is what allows the ruthlessness of how we're